Welcome to Herf Zone Live, the show that is unlike any other cigar show, where we have the most eclectic lineup of guests, of which some smoke cigars and some who don't. Either way, we bring you the best content weekly. Herf Zone Live is sponsored by StogieLives.com. If you're looking for a social media site just for cigar smokers, none of this stuff that goes on just like other social media sites, you definitely got to check out StogieLives.com. It's a smaller community. It's starting to grow. It's grown a lot. It's still on the fritz there, but it's definitely worth checking out. Meet somebody new. Just have a good time with it. So, and if you look down at the description below, Stogie Press is joining in with the efforts with Ace Prime Cigars and Stogie Press to raise money for the people of Jalapa, Nicaragua. And I actually got to check on that to make sure that's still going on. But anyway, the information is in the description below. You can check that out. And if it's no longer valid, I apologize. I'm actually going to check on that tonight because it's been a while. We haven't had much shows going on and all that. But I appreciate everybody that's just out there continuing to support on a weekly basis and so on and so forth. Man, what a day. I hope you guys had a wonderful day. So tonight I'm smoking the Recluse Amadeus right here. Something I got from the Great Smoke. Awesome cigar. Decent cigar. It's not anything that wowed me, but it's definitely a good cigar. I'm enjoying it. So yeah, enough of me yapping. Um, Waiting patiently in the Cigar Hustlers podcast green room, we have Matt and Garrett from How About That Cigar. This is the first time they're on the show. We're waiting on Garrett, so I'm just gonna bring Matt on, and we're just gonna talk here. What's going on, brother?
How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing good, man. It's a great evening. It's actually shirtless weather. It's not cold, but it's not hot either. But it's perfect. So, I mean, I'm sure you can't say the same. I'm sure you're freezing your buns off out there.
It's really not bad. I mean, compared to what it's usually, it's I don't know, 50 degrees right now. So for us, that's pretty warm in
That that
Minnesota in
that's
March.
Florida. That's Florida winter right there.
Yeah, yeah. When you guys get down to 50, you're wearing parkas and you know long
Yeah,
johns, boots.
yeah.
We're
It was
wearing
50,
shorts and t-shirts.
it was 50 degrees on Saturday, and the shop that I work at, I was hanging out there after work. And I went on top. There's this double decker red bus like from the UK, and it goes back and forth between Cocoa Village and Cocoa Beach. And so it pulled up in front of the shop, and I went up on top. I didn't have a jacket on because it was warm in the morning time. Haven't got home yet, and yeah, it was like 50 degrees. I couldn't stay up top of the double decker that long. So yeah, we're waiting on Garrett. He'll be on here soon. So Matt, just give us like a little introduction of yourself. We'll get to Garrett when he gets here, but how long have you been smoking cigars? Just stuff like that.
Yeah, I started. I had my first premium cigar in 1996. It was a small shop in the lower level of a shopping center in downtown Minneapolis. The shop's not there anymore. It was a Davidoff white label. If it was a particular one, I don't remember. Um, Before that, I was a cigarette smoker and had a handful of like Dutch Masters and Grenadiers and probably a few Swishers thrown in there. Was when I was, you know, a late teen, early 20s, back when it was still legal to buy tobacco products for, when you were, uh, well, it was 16 when I was growing up. It was 16. But so yeah, first cigar in 96. And I for many years, I was one of those guys who I would buy like a handful of cigars 4 or 5 times a year. Like if I was going golfing with the guys, or if there was a bachelor party, or if there was a bonfire or something like that. I didn't have a humidor. I didn't keep cigars. I just buy a handful every now and again, pass them out, when you're fishing or, sitting around the campfire or something like that. And then about 10 or 12 years ago, I don't remember exactly when, I took the dive and got a humidor and started learning everything I could. And once I started going down the rabbit hole, I mean, I just couldn't stop. I wanted to learn everything I could, and that kind of got me where I am now.
Nice. So you started just a casual cigar smoker, then you went
Yeah.
down the rabbit hole. What caused you to generate more interest in, in premium cigars, from just being that casual smoker to wanting to know everything that you could about it?
Um, I think mainly it was when I first started seeing some early blogs and some early hey, there's the man. When I first started
Yay.
seeing, there's Garret coming in hot.
Late to the party. Not really actually. I'm just bullshit at this point, so can you hear me, Garrett?
Pull that
Oh, yeah.
over this way so we can see.
All right. Catch your breath. It's okay. Matt could keep talking. You could just relax. Welcome everybody. Welcome Garrett to Herf Zone Live. Now we got him. Everything's complete. All is well.
Yeah.
I may or not have been watching from the car.
Oh, right on.
So
Right on. Well, yeah, I mean, we just started, so it's all good.
I
Yeah.
just gotta say, like, I know you guys don't know the area, but what I just did,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna leave it at that.
If you were in Edina,
Yeah.
yeah. So Edina is I'm basically far northeast suburbs, and he was in far southwest suburbs. And he got here in what 35 minutes. Yeah, that's
Wow.
In rush hour.
Yeah. Right
And
on.
and we have a what do you call that lane? We've got
The carpool lane.
carpool lane.
Yeah.
That I and you can pay to have like the little, transponder thing. I don't have that. Sorry. Okay.
I don't remember where I was. I was.
Oh, you're talking about how you went from being the average
So, yeah.
consumer to going down
I
the
was
rabbit
like-
hole.
I was reading, some early blogs and some early like discussion forums, web forums about cigars. And once I started seeing people post information about different tobacco leaves, and then I started seeing people post pictures from factories. I mean, before factories were even doing tours, like Cigar Safari and stuff like that. I just became obsessed with it and I wanted to learn everything about the process. And it's only grown ever since then, where I constantly want to learn more. It's like I can't get enough of it. And then once you go past the learning about the mechanics of it and the agriculture of it, then you start meeting the people in the cigar industry. And it's all over. Once you start meeting the people, because we say it all the time on our show, cigar people are the best people.
Yeah.
So once you start meeting people in the cigar industry, it's all over, because there's so many great people and great conversations to be had. So I couldn't stop learning about it, and I won't stop.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree. Cigar people are the best people. So now we're gonna move to Garrett here. Tell us about how you got into cigars, how long you've been smoking, that good stuff. We were just on the first question, so you really made it just in the nick of time.
Yeah, no, and like Matt, so I started in 1997 with premium cigars. Like Matt, prior to that, had a handful of, plenty of grenadiers, hunting and fishing with my dad, and did the Swisher things for a while. And then 1997, working at Jimmy John's, and cigar shop opens up right next door, and they came over and they said, "Hey, you ever had a premium cigar?" And I said, "Well, I don't know if grenadiers is that a thing? Is that premium?" And they're like, "Well, no, that's not what we're talking about." And I said, "But would you be willing to trade subs for cigars?" And I was like, that sounds great. So we did that. The first cigar they gave me was a Hemingway Classic, and I smoked it that night and immediately fell in love. Very next day, I got to meet Rocky Patel, and of course, it was lost on me at the time. But that shop and the people surrounding that shop were amazing. I was 19 years old. I was 97, and they treated me like everybody else. And I figured that cigars were this snobby old white man, rich white man's deal. And I quickly learned that was not the case. So fell in love with first the product, and quickly right after that, the people. And like Matt, it was just a progression of learning more and more, getting involved, writing a blog here or there. And yeah, it's been an awesome ride.
Awesome. Now, taking it further here, how did you two meet? And and like, did you just guys just hit it off and like become like inseparable from the start?
Well, we swiped right. We met online on this cigar forum, and I saw this post, by this guy, a huge nerd, and it said, here's a cigar I was smoking up fishing, and I was thinking, that looks like familiar territory. Where were you fishing? He was like, you wouldn't know. It's a small little lake in, northern Minnesota. It's like, try me. And come to find out, we live, 20-ish miles apart from each other, and into cigars. And so I was like, hey, we do this get together on Wednesday nights. We smoke cigars. We get a little spiritual, and we hang out, and it's an amazing brotherhood. Come check it out. And he wasn't weirded out by that. Came out, and we were fast friends. And yep, bromance
ensued.
Heck yeah. So you guys are believers then, Christians, or
Yep.
just spiritual? Okay, cool. Yeah, I grew up in the church, so it's like I meet a lot of people like in the cigar world that's like, and that's how I started smoking cigars with people that I was going to church with around the time I was like 18, 19 and all that. So I mean, reading Spurgeon is how I my intro to cigars there. So
Yeah, big cigar guy.
yeah. I was like, well, it's cool with Spurgeon, because I went from like one extreme of I grew up in a like name it, claim it type
right,
terrible theology
yep,
to whole opposite extreme there. And yeah, so I definitely relate to you guys a lot on that. So when did you guys decide, or how did you guys decide to like start your own like podcast? Like, was it just the show idea and then it morphed into what it is now with the website? You guys are a full multimedia thing. Like, how did that get started? And like, just take us through that process.
Well, it kind of goes back even before we knew each other. I mean, before we met, Garret was doing some YouTube reviews for a local brick and mortar shop back like 07, 08, somewhere in there. And right around the time that Garret and I met, I got involved with Blind Man's Puff and started doing reviews for them, being a part of the panel, and then started going to trade shows, helping Blind Man's Puff cover the trade shows, the IPCPR trade shows. And then I had always, we had talked back and forth a little bit about, hey, what if we started something? What if we did a thing? Whether it was a podcast or a website or something like that. And we never really did anything with it. And then I kind of got to the point where I was just starting to feel my age and started to think, if I'm ever gonna start anything from scratch, like from the ground up, it's got to be now, because I'm getting old. parts are starting to fall off, and no, I'm kidding, but you know, it's like it's got to be now. So, you know, I still deep love for the guys at Blind Man's Puff.
Mhm.
You know, I just went to them and said, hey, I appreciate all you guys. I just gotta jump off and do something. So sat down and talked to Garret about it, and we're like, yeah, let's do this. So we did it, and started building it in late 2018, and the website went public on February 1st of 2019.
A lot of bumps.
Oh Lord. And we didn't start, it was just a website with articles, news, reviews, and some culture pieces. We didn't do our first podcast until, well, we gotta go. We got to take them back to October, to the October before. I forgot about that.
First of all, I would like to say that I thought I knew what I was doing, which should be an indicator of how this goes. So, you know, I had a decent enough DSLR camera. I didn't have the right kind of lens. I had gotten, you know, some other little audio recording equipment, and we had set to do our very first interview, which was with Ristavisky at Big's Mansion in Chicago. It was, you know, they were amazing. The guys at Big's, you know, they gave us access to the entire house. We ended up doing Matt did a fantastic write-up on it. But we go and we're recording this, and it's going so well. And then Risty gets this call from, was it a professional baseball player?
Boxer.
Oh, it was a boxer. That's right. It was like a legit boxer. Don't remember who it was, but and he was like, do you mind if I take this call? And we're like, are you kidding? That's amazing. And so he's talking with this boxer about this deal with cigars, and just amazing. And we get back home, and not only is the audio like just shit, the main camera shut off, I want to say at like 15 minutes. And then this other little side camera thing that I had just didn't record well. So long story short, our very first interview is lost in the ether. And Risty still gives us shit to this day about it. And
yeah,
I love it.
That's the lost episode. So then after the website launched on February 1st of 2019, we did our first actual audio podcast in April or May of the same year, and just recorded, I mean, March or April.
Yeah.
So it was literally recorded on one of those little, Zoom recorders. It's roughly the size of an iPhone.
Oh wow!
You tabletop, you just set it on the table and push record and talk, and that's how we recorded it. And it was my old house, my smoking lounge was, I shit you not, a converted garden shed that I emptied out, and Garret and I sat in there and smoked, and I had a TV out there, and and that's where we did the first podcast.
Internet was terrible.
Yeah, internet was terrible. And so we did the first recorded one, and then we started doing Facebook Live, and because my internet was terrible, it would go out 3-4 times during a show, and we'd have our friends on there trolling the hell out of us, because the internet kept going out, and it was just super humble beginnings, and we just learned as we went, and figured out new ways to do things,
and we had amazing early amazing relationships with the Coop guys, and a lot of other media that would not only encourage us to keep going and to say, but to give us tips and tricks and, this is what we're doing and this is what we're using. And just that in itself is so huge because number one, it tells us you're part of this family.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see each other as competition. This is a brother and a sisterhood. And, the pool's warm. Come on in.
Yeah, we got a ton of encouragement and advice from other media people right off the bat. Bear Duplessis was our first official, like on camera remote guest. And we started out with, Google Hangouts Live before Google took it away. And then it just grew from there.
Awesome. I could definitely relate about the humble beginnings. If you look at my first couple episodes of my show on YouTube, the internet was so terrible. Like there was sometimes it was just grainy and so I definitely relate. And I've always, once I heard about you guys and heard your interview style, I always like looked up to y'all. So
Thank you, man.
you're doing your thing. So
Appreciate that,
what
brother.
was the last year was your first year at PCA, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
you guys did both,
how about
if
that
I'm
cigar?
correct. Yeah, how about that cigar? Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, what was that like being a first time going, as media? Um, some people started to do the live, instead of just recording stuff. You guys were doing it live, like, as you were interviewing people. Like, what was all that like? Just being a first timer and in that big pool and everything, like as media.
I'll let you hit this one first.
For me, it was huge. Matt had been there a handful of times before with Blind Man's, so he was already kind of knew what to expect. For me, it was. I mean, I still remember walking in and seeing my first was seeing Raphael and Nestor talking in the Placencia booth. And I was like, what is happening right now? Is this real? And the cooler part was, wow, there's so many great, these people that, if it's Pete Johnson or, Raphael and Nestor and, all of these big names in the industry that as consumers, if you nerd out and you get to know those names, you're like, wow, that's a big deal. But you go and you meet and you talk to them and they're real dudes. They're not like bigger than you. They are just absolute rock stars in character and what they do in this industry. So that for me was really affirming that this is an amazing industry, that it starts with all of these people that have made this beautiful product, but their character and everything just falls in line with what I would love to see in an industry. Like the cigar industry is all about love, friendship, relationships, supporting each other, helping each other. And so that was the biggest yes of the trade show for me.
Yeah. And they're really just the people in the cigar industry are for the vast majority, with very few exceptions, almost everybody in the cigar industry, they're generous, kind, fun, energetic, engaging, genuine people. Mm-hmm. And they just same as anybody who watches any cigar show like this, they just want to learn more about the craft of making cigars or the craft of selling cigars, because I believe that's also a craft. And they want to engage with people, smoke good cigars, have good drinks in some cases, and have good conversations. That's what people want. And that's what the trade shows are so great about, is they're like so a lot of people call them like family reunions, and it really is true.
Yep.
Most definitely. Now, was there anybody that you guys, since you started, I know Matt, you've been with Blind Man's Puff, and but since you guys started the show and and the website and everything. Has there anybody that you just were surprised that you just didn't know that they knew who you were, but when you met them, you're like, I know who you guys are?
Yeah, actually, the I think, well, it wasn't the first experience we ever had where, at least that I can remember, that happened where somebody knew who we were, was at the TPE trade show last year in 2021, which was later in the year. So it was May.
Mm-hmm.
And that was our first trade show. And we actually didn't even get to go to the entire trade show. We got there like halfway through the first day. So we only had like the last 2 hours of the day. And so we get onto the trade show floor and we're trying to get our bearings and, figuring out where we're going to go and who we want to talk to and all this stuff. And we get to one of those pavilion areas where there's, 7 or 8 different of those kiosks set up with a bunch of different brands in one area. And we get over by one of them and we happened to see somebody that we did already know and started talking to him. And I don't remember if we were just talking in general or if I said the words, "How about that cigar?" And Allison from Rockefeller turns around and she goes, "Holy shit, how about that cigar? I love you guys."
I know that voice. She said,
"Yeah, I know that voice." And both Garrett and I were like goosebumps, like blown away. Like this, people are actually watching and listening and caring about the interviews we're doing and stuff. And that was a kind of a warm, gratifying moment that was the first time that, and it's happened a couple times since then at, other shows where we've run into people and said, "Oh man, yeah, I've seen what you guys are doing." That kind of thing. It's very cool to hear.
It is.
Yeah.
It's affirming.
Sometimes it's surprising. Like you don't even think, you've never talked to them, but you just don't think. And it's like, wow. Like when I was at the Great Smoke, George Padron's son and his cousin, they were at the Padron booth, and then I was walking around shirtless, and I didn't even know they knew who I was. I was like, holy cow.
Nice.
And Padron doesn't have reps, so they don't come into our shop. I just write them a check and boom, get the order. It's just craziness. So
yeah.
I love to hear is when manufacturer will say that crazy death thing that you do on your show.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite segment. That's fun to hear.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite segment too. At first I was like, oh, like a game or whatever, but I mean, it kind of sucks you in. It's like a black hole. It just sucks you in.
Tell me about it.
Like how did that segment on your show come about? And I forget how to pronounce it. I was trying.
Numero de los Muertos.
Oh snap!
I had to.
So I had this idea because Matt was doing a like a quick trivia thing, and I was like, well, I got to come up with something. And I had just heard this death statistic, and I'm like, okay, well, let's do this like 20 questions, try and figure out how these people died. And it was, how many people in the US die every year or 100 people die from this every year. And we try and get there. And, but we didn't have a name for it. I want to say for 1 or 2 episodes.
Yeah, we did. I don't think we had a name for it at the beginning. And then I don't even remember how. Did I come up with the name?
That was you.
I couldn't remember.
You came up with the name Numero de los Muertos, and it was like freaking perfect.
And my Spanish sucks, so I mean, it's roughly translated to the number of the dead ones.
Yeah,
roughly. So
awesome.
And, we got a sponsor for that segment relatively quickly, and we've had a couple sponsors for that now, and
it just took off. Everybody says after the show is over, and everybody that we meet for the first time and talk to for the first time, they say it's their favorite part of the show.
Yeah. Carlito gets into it.
Yeah. Carlito loves it.
When one of his people is on, Carlito's watching, and I still remember his first guess. Strip club. What?
That was his first guess. He typed it in the comments.
Yep.
And we're both sitting there kind of dumbfounded, like, okay, we're a couple of nobodies doing a silly cigar podcast, and Carlito Fuente, just not only did he comment on our podcast, which on its own is like blowing our minds, he wrote the words strip club. It was just absolutely bonkers.
That was pretty dope.
Man, the pandemic brought Carlito out because I never really remembered
100%.
him being that active on social media. But Carlito is all over the place. Like the fact when he started liking stuff that I post, I was like, oh my god! And then I officially met him just last year, and when I was in Tampa for the Cigar Heritage Festival, and I was shirtless, and I took a picture with him and Joey Bianco. That was the most epic picture I've ever taken in my entire 15 years of smoking premium cigars. Like, and to be, their names all over every single cigar shop in America and across the world.
Yeah.
And to be that known and just to be that humble, like it's something to look up to, because I mean, we put ourselves out there, but being in the cigar world, we're only known within this small segment of the population, and even smaller because not every cigar smoker is on social media and is nerding out like we are. So it's like, it's craziness, it's just, I love technology. It's like to think when I was a kid, I had dial-up internet, when my family first got a computer, and then I'm sitting here talking to two guys in Minnesota, an hour, time difference away or whatever, thousands of miles away. It's unreal. So
yeah, it's awesome.
Now this year, I officially met you guys in person at the Great Smoke. Was this you guys' first time at the Great Smoke?
Yeah.
Yep, first, and won't miss another one, barring an emergency.
That's the way I feel. Like, I've been in Florida, a long time. There's a lot of Great Smokes that I missed, but the very first one I went to, I asked for it for the ticket for Christmas because I wanted, and it's become a tradition because it always falls close to my birthday. So, so like, what was you guys' like? I mean, just tell me about you guys' experience coming to Florida for the Great Smoke. Like, just as a first timer for everybody out there, like, what did you guys think? And just give me your full, the full synopsis of that.
I thought it was an incredible event. I mean, you look at the size of the space that they have, you look at all the moving parts. It's almost miraculous that a chain of retail shops and the team that's not really a huge team can put together an event like that. I mean, you're talking getting the venue, you're talking working on all the online stuff for buying the tickets, putting up the separate TGS store, the broadcast that they do, all the vendors that they have lined up to put the cigars in people's packs who buy the tickets, all the extra experience type vendors that they have. Then you've got all the food, the drink, the tables, I mean, literally every down to the tiniest detail. And it's not just, you get a rinky dink, a cardboard box full of, like a cheap ass lighter and, a couple, bargain bin cigars. You're getting the Drew Estate paint can lighter. You're getting a baller ashtray that Garrett's using right now. You get 40 true premium hand-rolled cigars. You get, all kinds of other stuff and great food. And again, another one of those events that it's like a family reunion.
But let me ask you guys this. For the same price, would you go if there wasn't any of the cigars and half the swag?
I would, yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, it's about the people.
But it just makes it worth it, even more worth it.
It's cherries on top of cherries.
Right. That's the dessert. the main part. You're totally right about that.
Yep.
The main factor that makes you want to go is the people, and then all the other cool stuff you get is just like icing on the cake.
Yep. 100%.
Yep. I mean, it's they're regular premium cigars that you could go to your local brick and mortar and buy if they're in that shop, and
Yeah.
they're not giving you Cuban rounds and factory seconds. That's for sure. We're getting the good shit.
Yeah.
But it is like a family reunion, like Matt was saying with other trade shows as well, because there's so many industry, principal industry people that go to the Great Smoke. Hercules did a fantastic job with his interviews. Abe and the team that set up all of the entertainment and the dancers and everything was super classy. The just from the food to the drink to the entire event was absolutely top notch.
Yep. And then a video got circulated of Garret zipping up Michael Herculatz's fly.
Did that
That did happen. Hey.
Oh yeah, it did. That's
when
right.
When a brother needs help,
you just go in there and do it.
You got to go in there and help.
And the best part of that video, he continued talking, and then he so casually said, "Thanks, man."
Yeah. It's when you see a brother in need, you help.
You go in there.
You get in there.
Yep.
So you guys just came back from Ristafari, this past weekend. I heard a lot of good stuff about it. I'm friends with Mike Kern. He was there. Fuckingkern.com. That he did have a website called fuckingkern.com.
Did he really?
Yeah, there was even a shirt on there, but whoever made that website didn't pay the bill because it's no longer there. But
so I gotta tell you a Kern story if I can.
Of course, you can say whatever you want. I don't care.
The first Ristafari I went to, so we got there. I want to say it was like 10:30 in the morning. Our first Ristafari. Kern was wearing this red velvet jacket, kind of had a little sheen to it, and within a half an hour of us being there, Kern died. What we call it.
Yeah.
They died when somebody
has a little too much,
passes out
in their chair.
So Kern is dead, and as he's sitting there in his jacket, I was like, gosh, you know who he looks like right now? And you might be a little too young for this, but there was a show in the late 80s, early 90s called Quantum Leap.
I've heard of it.
And the I don't remember what the character's name was, but he looked exactly like this character from Quantum Leap.
Yeah.
And I took a picture of Kern dead, and then I put the pictures side by side and posted that. And it was, I got to send you the picture because it's an uncanny resemblance especially with the jacket and everything. But no, we love Kern. We shared White Castles with Kern and some people our last night there, and good crew, good time at Ristafari.
Kern's an awesome guy, and then he was looking like recently, and I'm part of. I don't know if you guys are in Johnny Smokes Uncut, but they were Southern Draw. They were the month sponsor, I think last month, and Kern had his hat backwards and his hair, and his hair's not long, but he had the hat that Robert Holt wears, and it was backwards, and he looked just like. Every time I saw him post that month, he looked just like Robert Holt.
Yeah, nice.
So yes, and a lot of talk. You guys are aware of the whole Half Wheel article and everything.
Oh yeah.
You guys are at Ristafari and got the munchies, and I definitely support Risty, and he's he's in it for the right reasons. I don't think he's doing anything wrong whatsoever. Let's give your opinion on the the whole munchies cigar. It's really just the packaging, and I really don't obviously you can only get cigars in places where you got to be 21 and up to to enter and and buy, and and we pretty much self-regulate, in that sense, in the cigar community and cigar lounges. So just give us your opinion on that, and and just all that controversy that's been going on as of lately.
Yeah, it's we talked a little bit about this when we were on with on Meet the Professor, and it's and we've talked about it even just ourselves since then. It's a really complicated issue. And I know that it's sometimes we go into stuff like this and we desperately want to simplify it. And I think it's important that we look at every aspect of it. The fact is, as the way things stand right now, the product, as some products that are premium cigar products that are on the market, as they're packaged today or have been packaged in the recent past, it's not illegal to package them that way. And we're kind of pro freedom people, where we want people to be able to brand their products and market their products the way they see fit. But at the same time, we fully understand and recognize that there are companies that do make branding decisions and will make branding decisions that we wouldn't make.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that just because if somebody makes a branding decision that we wouldn't make, that doesn't mean we condemn that company. It just means that, it's another part of why it's complicated. Mm-hmm. Whether or not I believe directly that Risty or any other company with products that they've put on the market in the past, whether it was the name of the product or the design on the band or the box, whether I believe that any company has ever knowingly and deliberately attempted to sell or market cigars to underage people, I don't believe that's ever happened. I can't think of one instance where it's ever happened where someone consciously said, I want underage people to buy this product. But I also recognize the fact that that's not really the point. That the point that most people are making is we have to try to be sort of have a sense of responsibility to the group as a whole, and that being the premium cigar industry. That if we make certain branding decisions, those branding decisions, whether they're legal or not, can have a detrimental effect on the industry as a whole. And I understand where a lot of people are coming from, where they say you shouldn't be making branding decisions like that. So that's why it's so complicated, because we want people to be free to be creative and be edgy and be cutting edge, but we also want this industry to survive, and we want everybody to survive. We want the big cigar companies like Fuente, Padron, Perdomo, General, Altadis, so on and so forth. And we want the JSKs and the Black Label Trading Company and the Amendola and the Adventura and the Rockefeller, and name a dozen other small cigar companies. We want them all to survive and thrive. So it's a very tricky situation that I don't think it's just super cut and dry, where any one side of the argument can say this is the way it has to be and that's it.
Yeah.
And here's what I'll say is, I'll go on the public record and say I purchased a bag of munchies. So I directly supported that endeavor.
Same here.
And I did that because I will stand with Risty in his fight. I believe in, like Matt said, the freedoms, that he hasn't done anything illegal.
Mm-hmm.
Does it potentially cast some flags that may have consequences to the industry as a whole? Yeah, it
Maybe.
does. It might.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm willing to let my voice be heard in that fight. I think, gosh, it is it's so complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are regulated in a way that it's unfair
And arbitrary.
and completely arbitrary.
Yeah.
If we were regulated by the ATF like we should be, I don't think we would be having this conversation
Right.
too much.
Right.
But that's not the case. Our new enemy is the FDA.
Yeah.
And they play by different rules. We've got to abide by those rules right now.
Well, and they get to make up the rules as they go along.
They do.
That's one of the problems with arbitrary government organizations like the FDA. They're not nobody nobody who makes regulations in the FDA was ever elected by anybody. They're just they're people who work for a government organization. They were hired to do a job, and they get together as a group with input from different lawmakers and lobbyists and make decisions based on the input that they get, and also based on, I'm certain there's monetary pressures going from all sides. But I'll say this too. The other big reason that we chose to purchase a bag of those Munchies cigars was that, so a very close friend of ours who was part of the the JSK original, the OG9, the people who first really helped Risty's brand get off the ground. Tim Sootkamp, he passed away in October.
Mhm.
And Tim's kids are involved in sports and other summer activities. And, their mom is, they're struggling with living a different life now. They don't have their husband and their dad around. And, traveling baseball can be a very expensive enterprise.
Mhm.
So Risty is giving 10% of all the purchases of those Munchies directly to that family to help the kids pay for summer sports. So that for us,
Yeah.
part, and the family came out, to the event, and we took the family out to dinner, and another good friend of ours, I'm not going to embarrass him by saying his name, but was kind enough to foot the bill for the whole dinner. And then they came out, to the event as well, just to say hello. It really is a family thing for, family is very important to Risty. And I know family is very important to most other people in the cigar industry, whether it's small companies or large companies. And one of the things we talked to Michael Herklotz about last night is, with these conversations about these subjects, it's impossible to have them over social media.
Yeah.
Conversations can't happen over social media. They have to happen face to face. And that's why it's important for people not to be lobbing grenades over the wall in one direction or the other.
Yeah.
When going after these very difficult, complicated topics, because it's just not going to end well. We have to have conversations together about this. And obviously we can have those conversations virtually, like on StreamYard or Zoom, or we can have them in person, but we have to have actual conversations. We can't just be throwing things back and forth on social media.
Absolutely. And even those that are on the other extreme, there's brands out there that have used cartoon characters. I personally don't believe that they're not trying to focus on, they're not trying to target, anybody that's underage either. And, but unfortunately to the FDA, it could be seen as that, even though that's not their focus. And, so like you were saying, it's just all about, the industry as a whole that we all got to be mindful of and all that. But I mean, family is important. Like that's what the cigar industry is built on. Like most, the major cigar brands, the Fuentes, the Padrones, the Perdomos, like you know, they're family businesses.
Yeah.
Like they produce a lot of cigars, but it's no different than going to your local family restaurant or whatever. Like it's family businesses, and family is what's important, and that's what the industry is about. Not you know I mean anything. I mean, it could be detrimental.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say this too, that I have seen some cigar names and cigar designs in the past 5, 6, 7 years that when I've seen them, I have seriously said to myself, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And knowing full well when I see certain things, I say, first of all, I say it's just stupid, in my opinion, because it's there. I've seen some things that are just stupid, in my personal opinion. But I also know that there have been a few times that I've seen some of those designs that I don't really care for, knowing full well, man, that's going to be a red flag for the FDA, or it's going to be a red flag for, somebody who's going to try to take the industry down, who wants to lump premium cigars in with all other tobacco products.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I don't know if all of those products are sustainable or if they're not. I really, it's very difficult because, again, at the same time, I feel a sense of, my constitutional, freedom-minded guy comes out and is like, yeah, but they should be able to brand their stuff the way they want to, as long as it's not like illegal or anything like that. And but I also realize that it can be dangerous to the industry, so that's what makes it so incredibly complicated.
Yep. And I mean, I've seen some stuff that's just plain out copyright issue. I'm not saying, I'm not going to say any names or call anybody out, because I'm pretty neutral on a lot of stuff, because if I've never met somebody in person, it's kind of hard to judge that person's character. All I could go by is just what I see. But there's some stuff that's been copyright issues, not necessarily it's not illegal in the other sense, just the copyright issues, and just like, why would you do that? Like, there's so many ways that you can brand or market something, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I hear you.
So you guys just recently made your first appearance on Fuente and Merrittville present Meet the Professor. How was that experience for you guys?
Let me. So, a couple things. You heard what my first cigar was,
Yeah,
right? Fuente Hemingway Classic.
absolutely.
And then a couple months ago, took my kid to get his first tattoo. Phone call came into the tattoo shop, and they said, so and so, your 3:00 just canceled. And he comes out and he's like, well, what the fuck am I going to do for the next 4 hours? And I was like, you know what? I've had this idea, and I've wanted to do a tattoo sleeve for a long time. And I was like, well, hey, what can you do with this design? And we drew it up, and he said, if you do it right now, I'll do it for half off. And I was like, done. So
there you go.
Yeah, baby.
To be on Meet the Professor, I mean, number one, that show is just rock stars. We love Jeremiah, we love Jose, and obviously Carlito is fantastic. I love, and we talked about the issue we just talked about on that show as well.
Mm-hmm.
Matt and I were very diplomatic in our responses, and Carlito was, wanting to protect his brand and his industry that he has poured blood, sweat, and tears into. Totally different perspectives coming into this issue with valid points across all sides. So I felt like we were able to have a great conversation. And I mean, it's the freaking Fuentes. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's a blast.
Yeah, it is crazy. I mean, because even the first, so last year when, I mean, everybody who comes on our show, we consider ourselves fortunate to get to talk to them. But, you know, you can't discount the fact that there are certain guests that have a higher wow factor. And, you know, when we had Carlito on the show last year, we were completely blown away that happened. And that's 100% thanks to Jose Blanco.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, my friends and family who don't smoke cigars, but know that we do a podcast about cigars and know that I'm really into cigars. The only way I could explain it to them was I said, imagine that Garret and I did a podcast about basketball and our guest was Michael Jordan. That's the only thing I can equate it to. And then to, you know, not even a year later, for Garret and I to basically be like if we were playing in a local intramural basketball league and get invited to be on Michael Jordan's podcast. That's what it felt like for us. Like, you want to talk to us? Really? I mean, we're grateful, but it's just insanely humbling.
It is so humbling. And again, it shows the character of, you know, all of these people, that there's a reason why the Fuentes are the Fuentes, the Padrones are the Padrones, is they have this humility and this, they're about family and people. And what does Carlito say? What's his tagline?
It's not about the cigars.
Not about the cigars.
It's about the people.
It's about the people.
And it's so true. He's not on a high horse. He's not stuck up. He's not conceited. He has confidence in his brand and his family and his products, and as well he should. But that's not him being conceited. That's him knowing the work that he and his family have put into this for, you know, decades upon decades upon decades.
It's a justifiable and earned pride.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And they just want to have, they have so many great different people on that show, and they, just like us, they just want to have conversations and get to know more people in the industry and find out what part everybody can play in the industry to make it more, to make it better, to make it more interesting. And they do a really cool job with it. I mean, they're absolutely hilarious people.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're not these shy, you know, you think, you know, these people are, you know, they're in their late 60s, early 70s, you know, not all of them, but you know what I'm saying. And yet they don't shy away from, you know, locker room humor, and it's hilarious. They're absolutely hilarious, funny, genuine, kind people. And it was an absolute blast to be on that show.
Yeah.
I really enjoy watching it. I went back and watched it. I took a nap that day, which I don't take naps that often. And then, so the next day I went back and listened and watched it, and it was definitely cool. It was cool to see somebody that, you know, you guys are about, you know, the same level as me in this world, in the cigar world and everything. So it's good to see somebody from my level, you know, get to, you know, dialogue with them, and it's amazing. So,
and I'll say the coolest part about that whole show was, you know, you've got the people from Fuente interviewing the guys from How About That Cigar. And those are the two subjects we really didn't talk about on the show at all. We didn't really talk much about Fuente cigars much
Yeah.
on the show at all, and we didn't talk much about how about that cigar on the show either. We talked about FDA stuff, branding stuff, families,
Mhm.
other stuff. We didn't. That
Yeah.
was. We didn't have to talk about our brands. We just talked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It was awesome.
I always try to make it a good mixture of, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, get people to know. But do you guys espouses smoke cigars with y'all? Or is that just, with something that y'all do independently and they just support it and tolerate it from a distance?
Now, my wife will have a pull here and there. She's had, I think, up to a half a cigar, but not her bag.
For my wife, she actually had her first cigar last year at my 50th birthday party because she put this big surprise party together for me. And she went and got a box of Fuentes for me at the cigar shop and set up this cigar bar outside. And after, the party kind of settles in and everybody sits and starts talking, I'm smoking a cigar. Most of us there are smoking a cigar. And
I'm gonna back you up a little bit. So this is a surprise party.
Yeah.
Matt and I are at
I was at Sodi's.
No. We were on a trip. We were
PCA.
at PCA.
We were at PCA.
We're at PCA, and I'm coordinating this party, and I'm helping plan this party with his wife. And we're texting back and forth about details and cigars she should get and who she should, how many people and who I'm inviting, blah blah blah, this that, all the details, and we're doing all that. And Matt and I love to show each other TikToks, one of our things, and we're like, oh, dude, have you seen this one? And as I'm showing Matt, this TikTok, all of a sudden I get sweaty, and I'm like, what if his wife texts me? Not only is that going to look weird, number one,
Yeah.
but party would be blown at that point. Thankfully, that didn't happen. But we were able to set up this surprise party with, his brothers and neighbors, friends, and some cigar peeps. And it was funny, as we're setting up for it, Amy says, I think I might try a cigar tonight. What do you think Matt would say to that? I was like, I would say, get ready to go upstairs. Is what I would say to that.
Yeah. So we're sitting around smoking cigars, and my wife walks over to the box of Don Carlos and pulls one out of the box and takes it out of the cello and hands it to me. She's like, "Here, help me with this." And I said, "What?" And she said, "Yeah, I want to smoke this." So I cut it for her and I lit it for her, and oh yeah, I felt a certain kind of way about that. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
I mean, it's got to be an amazing feeling there.
Oh yeah, and even my brother, who I think previous to that point, and I'm not joking, I don't think he had ever touched any type of tobacco product in his life ever. Said, "Yeah, let me try one of those." And he and his girlfriend enjoyed a Don Carlos together.
Yep.
And now we've actually gone on a couple. My brothers and their significant others and my wife and I, we go on trips, and since then, we've had some cigars together. So my wife, she's had a few, but it's definitely not a regular thing for her.
Awesome. Now, what do you guys typically like to smoke? I know you guys love JSK, you like Fuente, but outside of those brands that we all know, like, what do you typically like to smoke, and what's your favorite pairings, with your cigars?
Oh man.
Well, full disclosure, I am also a broker, and I broker for a handful of brands, and that is relevant because it brings up a bias I'm about to say. Right now, my favorite cigar in the morning with coffee is an Adventura Lancero, Queen's Pearls Lancero. That by far is my favorite breakfast cigar, and not only breakfast, but really anytime. It's just so freaking good with coffee. It's ridiculous. So every morning I get an opportunity to, I'm I'm smoking a Queen's Pearls, typically Lancero, but I'm starting to run out, and so
Got to stop smoking up all your samples.
I may have purchased some because I'm responsible with my samples.
Yeah.
And
Gotta
then-
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right now that's my favorite breakfast cigar. But yeah, I was actually talking to somebody, and I wanted to ask you this too. Because of the cigars that we smoke to either get ready for a show or review or whatever, there are times that we have to smoke a cigar on a show, review, or whatever that isn't like in my right now mood wheelhouse,
Yeah.
and how that may or may not affect the review.
I hadn't thought about that really.
Yeah, I hadn't either.
That's a good question.
I didn't even think about it either.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because we go in ebbs and flows with our, what's hitting for our palate, at any given time. There are times where, I'm really in the mood for a Connecticut, or I'm really in the mood for a Sumatra, and that review would hit differently if I wasn't in the mood.
Well, but also first impressions play a factor on that.
100%.
Because we've talked about not calling a cigar bad if you've only smoked it one time.
Right.
But it's also, it doesn't necessarily even mean that, because they're a handmade product with natural ingredients. We understand that sometimes one's going to sneak through that just isn't right, whether it doesn't burn right or whether there's some bitterness or acridness or whatever. But it's not even about whether the cigar is technically good. It's about the first time you ever smoke that cigar. Is that the flavor profile that you're really in the mood for?
Mm-hmm.
Like you said. And I had never thought about that before. Because then is that going to color your opinion for
Right.
future samplings of that same cigar?
Yeah.
That's a very good question to ask. But as far as I go, and I'll say for Garret, just so you can do the pairing piece of it, talk about that part of it for you.
Yeah.
As far as beverage pairings for you.
So yeah, I've been sober 27 years. I live vicariously through Matt and a few other people that do, the leaded variety of pairings. So for me, it's coffees, teas, water. I shy away from sweet things because any cigar that has a natural sweetness will be completely drowned out by any sodas or anything of that nature. So yeah, that's typically where I'm pairing. But going back to brands, dude, I'm all over the map. Favorite cigar from the Great Smoke was by far the Amendola Especiale. Well, that was TPE. And I got another one at the Great Smoke from Jeff. But so that, okay, two of my favorite cigars this year are the Amendola Especiale and the Generoso from Ferio Tego. Top two cigars so far this year.
Nice.
Awesome.
For me, again, I'm all over the road. I don't necessarily subscribe to the theory that you should smoke your mildest cigar early in the day and then progressively get stronger throughout the day. I'll smoke a Neanderthal first thing in the morning with coffee and love it. And it doesn't really, I'm one of those smokers who strength really doesn't affect me much. It's maybe one or two times in my life where I've gotten this sort of slightly nauseated feeling from a cigar. But as we're learning from Luciano from Ace Prime, is that 9 times out of 10 that nauseated feeling has nothing to do with nicotine. It has to do with ammonia. So strong cigars like Neanderthals and like the New World Puro Especial and
Backwoods
and like the 601 La Bamba. I mean, don't get me wrong. They have a lot of spice and they have a lot of punch to them, but I don't get that nicotine thing that a lot of smokers get. So I can smoke any different range of things throughout the day. It just really depends on my mood, but I'm a huge Roma Craft fan, a huge Fuente fan. I like a lot of the JSK stuff. I like Adventura stuff. One of my favorite budget cigars that I smoke multiple boxes of a year is the Gilberto Oliva Reservas in the Corona size.
Such an underrated cigar.
Alec Bradley stuff. I mean, there's 1,000 brands I'm not mentioning right now that I reach for everything.
Mi Querida is like
Mi Querida.
Mi Querida is a daily smoke.
Especially that Gordito side.
Oh.
That Gordito Mi Querida is, I think, probably, I don't want to say the best, but for me, it is it's the short cigar that I reach for more than any other short cigar. When I want a quick 30-minute cigar, that's the one I reach for.
Me too.
Over and over and over again. But yeah, it's all over the road, strength-wise, flavor-wise, and pairings. My favorite pairing, as far as spirits goes, is probably bourbon. That may be tied with rum. I really love good rum as well. I do dabble in scotches, and I'm still trying to learn my way through the Scotch world. And also a lot. I love to experiment with different craft beers and that kind of thing. But I also love coffees and teas and just good old fashioned Topo Chico.
Nice. My favorite? Well, I drink coffee. I drink water, but my other favorite pairing, it's a non-alcoholic pairing, is Bang Energy drink. They go excellent with cigars.
I've never had a Bang Energy because I that is one of the things that, even though I don't get affected by strong cigars, and I also can.
Bang won't make your heart race or anything like that.
I might try it, but
it will wake you up, but you won't feel like you're gonna have a heart attack. That's the reason why I drink it, because it doesn't make me feel crazy, like the rock stars and stuff I used to drink a long time ago. Like I used to
had
drink
a Monster Energy one time, probably 15 years ago, and I'm one of these people. I can drink a double espresso at 10 o'clock at night and go right to bed and fall asleep with no problem whatsoever. But I smoked one of these Monster Energies, I drank one of these Monster Energies about 15 years ago, and I seriously felt like my arms weren't connected to my body. And I was like, I'm done with those. I haven't had one. I'm
smelling numbers.
Yeah, I smell numbers.
And I just want to mention too that anybody watching who is interested in getting into teas, loose leaf is where it's at, where you get good, flavorful, good tea. Not any of the box teas. And the one that you should try and get is a tea called Lapsang Souchong. It's a Chinese black tea that's been smoked. You want to talk about pairing a tea with cigar? That's where you should go. Lapsang Souchong.
And you should pair it with an A.
Like an A length.
T and A.
I see what you did there. See what you did.
I have all the jokes.
And another pet peeve, chai is just called chai. It's not called chai tea. It's chai. Because chai literally means tea. So if you say chai tea, you're saying TT.
Okay, Mr. Fancy Pants.
That's going to be my...
So you're going to go get some money from the ATM machine to buy a chai tea?
Wow. That's exactly what we're doing.
See, you heard it first on Herf Zone Live, a real tea aficionado. Don't say chai tea, it's just chai.
It's just
chai. And the best kind of chai is a dirty chai. You ever had do you know what that is?
Nah.
It's a chai with a shot of espresso. Can't even. That's delicious. And with a cigar, that's delicious.
See, I'm not really big on tea, but I
Have
probably
you had chai
try.
though? Have you had chai? Have you ever had chai?
I might have before. Like I said, I'm not big on like teas. I've had some teas. I don't remember what type of tea, but
It's tea with a variety of spices in it.
Yep. So India is who brought chai to the world. And if you find a coffee shop that makes their own chai, that's amazing. If they buy like pre-made chai, it can be good depending on where you get it. Typically, the pre-made stuff is really sweet, so which can be okay. And if you put that shot of espresso in there, that bitterness of the espresso cuts in on the sweetness of the chai, and it's delicious.
awesome.
Like Matt you had a really sweet drink, but then you put 4 shots of espresso only because our friend was daring him to put 8 shots in.
Our friend put in 6 shots, and I was like, "No, I'll just do 4." And it was still, it was like this Harry Potter butter beer, butterscotch like latte thing. And even with 4 shots of espresso in it, it was like so sweet I could
So
barely
sweet.
take it.
I've had a shot in the dark before, which is, double espresso or no, shot of espresso. I think I did double espresso and regular coffee, but yeah, that was a good way to jumpstart my morning one morning.
It'll get you going.
Absolutely.
But yeah, well, I usually keep the show to about an hour. I've had a fun time on the show with you guys today. Before we get out of here, though, so tell everybody where, I put your website and all that, but, tell everybody, just in case they don't read the description, where can, everybody, check you guys' show out and all that. And, any last things
Yeah.
you want to say before we get out of here?
Well, I want to give a shout out to our engineer Justin Lawler, who came
Shouts
on
out to
board.
him. I had a chance to meet him. Shouts out to him.
Yeah, Justin came on board in October and has been a huge part of allowing us to expand what we do and bring this out. So
Absolutely.
Justin, I think he was watching at one point. I don't know if he still is, but thanks to Justin for doing all the stuff in the background and at the trade shows.
Yeah.
We were able to do more live coverage than anybody at the last trade show, and it's we're super excited to have Justin on.
He's a big part of that. As far as us, the best place is go to the website howaboutthatcigar.com every day. We don't necessarily post new stuff every day, but just check back there. We have a Facebook page, so like the Facebook page. If you go to facebook.com/HBT Cigar, and then on Instagram and Twitter, it is at HBT Cigar. And then we go live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter with How About That Cigar Live every Monday night at 9:30 p.m. Central Time. Eastern Time. Thank you. 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And then we do, trade show coverage and cigar reviews and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, it's been a good show. I appreciate you guys for coming on. If this is your first time watching Herfstone Live, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend, all that good stuff. And I'll let you guys know when we're not live so we can talk that real shit.